$1 million watch. It better be great, right? And it probably is going to be, unless it's a Jacob & Co. And that's just how it is, right? What is up, Watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop.
And my name is Sam.
Today's episode is going to be a great one. We're talking about the greatest watches under $3,500. And it's not just our opinion. We'll be analyzing the opinion and the decision of the Grand Prix de Horology, the GPHG, the ruling body, the Academy Awards, right?
The Grammy.
Exactly. I think this is an amazing event that takes place every year where this governing board gets together and votes with a jury on a whole bunch of different categories, from jewelry watches to super high-end watches, complicated watches, all these different things. But one of the most interesting categories, I think, is the challenge category, the challenge award, okay? It's a challenge to develop something that is brilliant under $3,500. We all know that, right? I mean, $1 million watch, it better be great, right? And it probably is going to be, unless it's a Jacob & Co. And that's just how it is, right? So we'll be looking at the last 4 winners. 2020 being Tudor's Black Bay 58. 2021 being Ciga Design's Blue Planet, which is an incredible watch. We're going to talk about in a little bit. We actually have one right here in for review. 2022 being Mad, right, by Max Busser of MB&F. His Mad Red 1, which is a very cool watch, but even though it won the award for under $3,500, they're like $9,000. So I don't know how they won that award or got the whole ruined, right? The whole thing got ruined. And then finally, an interesting watch from Raymond Weil that, I think it should have won a different award. So today's conversation is going to be amazing. I'm really excited to be taking a look at these watches, particularly the Ciga, which again, we have in for review. An incredible company that comes out of China, and it flipped the GPHG on their head, right? I mean, they were not ready. No one really knew about Ciga design at least in my understanding, in America, Europe. No one ever mentioned them to me. And then boom, 2021 hits, and the GPHG gives them the credit for this remarkable piece, and it totally puts the brand on the map. And this watch till today is relevant and forward-thinking and divergent. It's incredible.
Extremely unique.
Certainly something, right, an achievement we would expect from someone like, right, a Trelobe at $20,000 or Resins at $15,000 or $20,000. But to achieve that kind of brilliance, right, this balance of innovation and design and this odd way of telling time, this totally proprietary way of telling time, it's just wild they did that for the price they did, which is about $1,000. So, okay, let's get into the first watch, which is a great one, but it's a little bit boring. I mean, come on, talk to me, baby.
So first winner in 2020 that we're going to talk about is the Tudor Black Bay 58. To me, this is just a beautiful watch. Who doesn't love a Black Bay?
Right.
Obviously, Black Bay has been on my radar for a little bit now through you for years. But to see this watch and at the price point, this is a beautiful alternative to any sort of sub. And again, everyone that I know that wears a Black Bay, they love wearing it. And anytime I try it on, I go, for the price point, this really just is a phenomenal watch.
Totally. I agree. I think that obviously the Black Bay is a great watch. Obviously at $3,500, it represents great value. I do think, however, as I continue to go through the list of winners over the next 4 years, the Black Bay is really the least exciting. The parameters for the award, it doesn't say it has to be exciting. It just has to be best. Right? Yes. Best watches under $3,500. And in many ways, I can totally see how the Tudor Black Bay could be a candidate and could be a winner. I don't think the GPHG was necessarily wrong. I don't really remember what else was released in 2020 that would have been better under $3,500. I would place a bet that there may have been something that I may have liked more, maybe from Longines. They've been releasing great stuff for a long time. But, it's a great watch. Again, it's just not as exciting as we get into the rest of today's conversation because it goes into not only Ciga, but Max Busser. It goes into a big comeback from Raymond Weil. Do you see my point?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say going with that, I feel like that the Tudor and the Raymond Weil that we'll talk about in a little bit, and then the other two, but the Tudor specifically and the Raymond Weil are more almost for everyone, if that makes sense. The majority, the masses, I feel like are going to enjoy these types of watches and put that investment in. The other two that we're going to talk about are a little bit more unique in how they're designed, and they're not going to be for everyone.
Right.
Doesn't make it bad. It's just that I know that it's not going to be for everyone. This is an interesting watch that we'll talk about in a second, but I know it's not for everyone. The Tudor sure most people are going to want to buy that watch, but also look at like the Submariner. Most people want a Submariner.
Yeah, I mean,
So
when it comes to MB&F and Ciga and some other brands, obviously Trilobe is a really great example at $20,000. Resonance is a really great example between $15,000 and $30,000. When brands rethink timekeeping, right? When they rethink how time is to be told, it's not for everyone because not everyone can understand forward thinking, right? Not everyone, even if they can understand, they don't want to adopt it. It's not their piece of cake. There's something, that's nothing wrong with that. But I happen to be an advocate, right? I'm a lover of watchmaking, so I'm an advocate for free thinking, forward thinking, even if it's a little bit obscure and off the beaten path, and maybe if it's not as obvious or easy to wear all the time because of colors or whatever it may be. Like the Max Booster we'll talk about in a bit is quite wild. It's a little ridiculous. I actually think that the Ciga is a better design, just in my view. But it's not for everybody. But for the people that understand forward thinking, the people that understand a divergent mind, that stuff is wild.
Yes, and I think that part of this conversation also becomes looking at it's very objective of what someone likes. So when you look at subjective?
Subjective.
Very subjective of what someone likes, what kind of watch you like. And that's the fun of watches. You could design something that is going to be more, normal in what a typical watch design is, or you can go completely off the beaten path and do something just completely different and let the market decide. Some people may like it, some people may hate it. I think that watches, for me to think about it, it's very much like music. You can make something that is considered pop music, which is for the masses, or you could do something completely experimental and different, and it's not for everyone, but to the people who love watches or love music, they'll appreciate the artistry behind it.
Exactly. Again, nothing wrong with the Black 58. It's a fantastic watch. I would recommend one every day.
You recommend them all the time.
I recommend them all the time. That being said, when I started with 2020 and I saw that this was the watch that won, I was like, doing the research for today's video, I was like, okay, is the video going to be boring? Are we only going to be talking about boring and kind of predictable? Nothing wrong with it, but you know what I mean. I was looking for kind of weird stuff, wild stuff. Yeah. Exactly. This was 2021, and that's when Ciga's Blue Planet won, and setting the tone for this. I didn't really even know this story. Someone told to me one time at a watch event, and just paying attention, but I didn't know the brand, so it wasn't, whatever. I was a little distracted. The Swiss watch industry thinks that in many ways, on a tonality level, they're doing Japan and even Germany kind of a favor for entertaining their watches. The Swiss are very proud and protective. There is like basically all great nations, right? They are proud and they are proud of their folks and a little bit biased. Right? I mean, that's just the way it is, right? I love visiting Italy, but if I had to vote between an American entrepreneur and an Italian entrepreneur, even if they were dead, I'd vote American entrepreneur because that's my country, and I'm a little bit protective. I'm a little bit protective. And the Swiss are certainly that way, right? So no one saw in 2021 that there was even a vague possibility of a Chinese watch company winning the award in the Swiss's precious foundation, right? This was in their Golden Globes, right? Which is so reductive because this is really intelligent.
Yes,
that's not. No one expected this.
Oh, this came out of nowhere.
And yet they had the good sense to give this award, the Challenge Award, to this company, Ciga Design. So then obviously everyone kind of shuffled and said, who the heck is Ciga Design? What is the Blue Planet? How does it even work? Because it's not obvious when you first look at it how it works. But then it opened up a whole world of conversation and interviews and adding depth to this company. To try to understand where the Blue Planet came from and what makes it so interesting, and we'll get into some of the specs in a second, right? The watch world immediately went to, well, who's behind it, right? who's the founder, right? And they found this very long history, decades of excellence and achievement in science and technology and design, right? So it's kind of this meeting of these two worlds, a very rare sort of person, a very rare mind that kind of understands both worlds, right? That left brain, right brain thing, right? Which very similar to how we speak about Grand Seiko Spring Drive. That's what it takes, right? The only way you create something that is totally new and understands, right, both sides of this coin is a leader that can speak both languages.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Grand Seiko was able to develop the spring drive because they had excellence in mechanical watchmaking, and then they knew quartz because they invented it, right? I mean, so that's how the synergy, happens and how brilliance occurs. So fast forward, right, after all these years of being not only studying but professionally engaged, right, on a civil level, on a civil engineering level, even for the Olympics for that matter, actually. And Ciga Design's Blue Planet is, of course, their gem, right? Truly just this, outlier, this anomaly of a watch, right? 46 millimeters in diameter, offered in stainless steel, titanium, ceramic, quite a few different variations, but the technology remains the same. But we've got, obviously, on a design level at the center, we've got this amazing three-dimensional aluminum globe that is, it's so
stunning.
Realistic. It's stunning, right? Obviously, it reminds me of the, just in that element of the vintage and modern, for that matter, Patek Philippe world timers, right? With that globe right in the center with all of the dimension and depth, right? At 46 millimeters, obviously, it sounds very large, but because it has no lugs, I don't think it's anywhere near. This feels way better than most Panerai or all Panerai, so it's not really that large.
Or 46 millimeter Panerai is too big for my wrist. Right. This fits perfectly.
Exactly.
And because it's titanium too, the weight's not there that you get with the stainless steel. And I haven't tried the stainless steel on, so I don't know how heavy it is. I think it's only like 20 grams heavier from what I was looking at. But to put this watch on, it feels light. It doesn't feel like you're wearing a 46 millimeter watch.
And how's the rubber strap feeling?
It feels amazing.
Yeah.
It's light. It's comfortable. I will say it's a little tough to tell time sometimes. You really got to look, but
you have to look, exactly, right? And that's kind of the thing, right? You're not going to tell time at a glance with this watch. So the hour hand, which is essentially that compass on the globe, rotates in 30-degree intervals, and the minutes ring completely in 360-degree rotation. So the 12-hour scale on the dial does not move. So that may sound kind of difficult, but it's actually pretty simple. In the photo here, the time is 7:25. Again, if you explain it in long terms, it's a little bit difficult to understand how it works, but reading it, if you give it more than 2 seconds, is not difficult. It's not difficult. No. At a glance, practical, no. But looking at it and then appreciating it, obviously, for what it is, which is kind of, again, divergent thinking. This is what I think the GPHG, or it's not the GPHG that has to award, it's up to the market to develop incredible watches, right? And the GPHG can award them. But this is what I love to see,
of course,
in the watch world. This is what I love to see under $3,500 if possible, which is insane. These watches started at $1,000 and are obviously still manufactured today. You can go on to Ciga Design, which I obviously highly recommend that you do, and take a look and explore the collection more. The watches are incredible and priced so appropriately.
Agreed.
The movement is completely proprietary and obviously kind of something we've never seen before. It was developed in collaboration with Seagull. I think this watch is remarkable. When we touched base with them, and I had heard about the Blue Planet before. I knew about the Blue Planet after they won in 21, and not before that. But after they won, I knew about them. But getting them on the wrist, looking at them, really admiring the dial detail, even the detail around the globe, in all of the etching on the discs, phenomenal. So this is an incredible piece.
So who do you think? So obviously coming from a Tudor to now to this watch. Big difference in design, completely.
Big difference in theory and
everything. My question is, who do you think should be the person that purchases this watch?
Good question. It's a good question. So I think because the price point is so... it's less than a third of the Tudor, right? True. Basically, right? Really sweet price point to have fun with, experiment with, push the boundaries of what you may think is comfortable, okay? I love Trelobe. I love Resonance. I love all of these brands that rethink watchmaking, MB&F as well. I love that stuff. But the reality is that even if you can afford, even if you're in the market for a $25,000 watch, $25,000 is a lot to spend on something that you're still experimenting with, right? Buying $25,000 watches and buying $25,000 experimental watches are two very different things, right? So for me, my budget would allow me, I'd be far more likely, I would be excited to buy something different and interesting like this Ciga or like the Mad 1, which is a great story. It's no longer under $3,500, not even no longer even close. But at the time, these are watches that I think are more, they are objectively more budget friendly, and they give you kind of the incentive, or they give you the push to say, hey, go do something wild. Yeah. Go support independent watchmaking. Go support divergent thinking. Yeah. So for me, a whole world of people, not just the people that are really, really, really into technology and design, but also the people that are really into watches that would not spend, you know, $10 or $20 or $30,000 on something crazy, but they're like, yeah, you know what, for $1,000 or for $1,200, I think that this is kind of a steal.
Yeah.
I think I can really kind of buy divergent and independent well within my budget. That's cool.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
They may have the 20 grand, but they don't want to go for it, right? Because it's a crazy amount of money. But that's why I think the challenge prize is so interesting.
Well, I think it's probably the most interesting out of all the other categories for the fact that that's a tough, you know, obviously if you have $1 million to spend on developing a watch, of course you're going to make something that is beautiful, unique, all those things. But for $3,500, you know, you actually really need to put a lot of thought and effort into maintaining it below that price point. And that's no easy feat.
I think that Ciga is absolutely incredible. I love the movement. I love the display. I love the finishing. I love the price point. It's no secret. This is completely consistent with all of my opinions, I mean, period, on this channel. And I highly recommend you go and take a look at Ciga. Go ahead and take a look at the link down in the bio. Click on it and go explore.
Awesome.
And now this next watch is from Max Busser of MB&F. So this is not an MB&F watch. Okay. This is a MAD editions watch, and this model is the One Red. Okay. I actually don't like this design at all. I think this is a rather ugly watch. I think that this is weird. I don't even know what it looks like. Maybe it's very I don't know. It's just weird to me.
It's
too
interesting.
aggressive.
It's very thick.
It's very thick. How thick is it? 18.8 millimeters thick. So I think it's kind of weird and unwearable. That being said, the concept, incredible. Max Busser delivering this watch under $3,500, incredible. When this watch was announced, okay, and this is the successor just to the Mad 1, it was the list was 20,000 people, right, that wanted this watch, and the watch was limited. Okay, the original one was 450 pieces. Okay. That's insane. And the way that Max Busser and not MB&F, but Max Busser essentially, you know, allowed for this and allocated these watches was based off of a lottery system. Now, they also, which I think is really cool, took into consideration the letters that people had written after the Mad 1 release saying, I really would love this watch. Well, here's why I love your brand. Here's I want to support it, blah, 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 blah. So that when they released this, they had cataloged all of those letters and all those emails, and they took them into consideration when allocating the watch.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
You know, that's pretty cool, right? Support the people that love you. Support the people that support you. Again, I don't like this watch. That being said, I can't take away from it that it's totally divergent thinking. The time is told on the case itself, in the case center. Time is told fairly easily. I would say the time is told easier than it is on the Ciga, although I don't think that was very difficult either. But this is a little bit easier. But that being said, it's also in a very inconvenient place.
You gotta like,
you know?
I don't know.
It's kind of wild.
It's not that bad. It's right here. I mean, it's still a little weird.
It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit wild. Obviously, the movement is upside down. The rotor is on the top. I think it's ugly. I think it's weird, but I think it's kind of brilliant.
So the only thing that really gets me with the watch is you know, telling the time on the side. What I actually do enjoy about this watch, which you don't like about it, is it's like just flipping the exposed case back and putting it on the dial.
Yeah, so I do enjoy that. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't like the architecture of the movement.
That's fair.
It reminds me of like a guillotine or something.
I was going to say like a radiation symbol.
Maybe that, sure, yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting.
It reminds me of just a weird place I wouldn't want to be. I'd feel uncomfortable being. You know, that's it.
It's going to give you a nightmare looking at this thing.
It's going to give me a nightmare. That watch is going to give me a nightmare.
I'm going to get a call at 7 a.m. the next day like, buddy, like, I don't know, I was wearing the watch last night and I couldn't sleep.
I'm not doing good.
I'm not doing well.
Good. So that's the reason I don't love the watch, but I love what it stands for. I love that Max Busser even thinks that this is a good idea. I love that he goes out of his way to create watches, albeit, of course, in limited run. But at this price point, watches that represent, again, divergent thinking, I think that this is exactly what we want to see more of in the watch world. And Max Busser is a I mean, just call him a positive force in the watch world would be an understatement. That's it. I mean, this is great. This is great. I don't like it. Again, the original run, the retail price was $31.25 Swiss francs. Now they trade between $7,000 and $10,000, which is no surprise. Obviously, you know, this stuff sold out and went wild. The watch on your wrist, unlike your iPad, will mean something to someone one day if it doesn't already. Something that will make them smile, walk a little taller, surely at some point cry, but it will mean something. next watch here kind of goes back to 2020.
Yes.
Right? Pretty much. I think that Raymond Weil's Millésime is, I think it's a little bit more interesting than Tudor Black Bay because the price point is literally like, $1,500 to $2,000. So inherently, it just makes it a little bit more aggressive, right? And I think that the dial is really cool. I mean, there's not too much you can say here. I think that the real point of this watch is the comeback for Raymond Weil.
Agreed. And we just spoke about this on a recent episode, you, me, and Michael, and I believe our Christmas episode. We were chatting about Raymond Weil and this watch a little bit too. I think, to your point, this is the comeback of Raymond Weil. Hopefully, we'll see what happens in 2024. I know that they'll actually be at Watches and Wonders, so curious to see if they're releasing anything new. I love this watch. I think it's 1,800 Swiss francs, so about $2,000 American or USD. I think it's a great little. It's a dress watch, but it's not too much going on, but there's a little bit more going on than what you would typically see with, I think, a dress watch.
Yes.
Yeah, what I really like about this watch is a lot of things, but mainly like the sector dial brings us back a little bit to the 20th century. And I just think it's Raymond Weil coming back into it a little bit.
Totally.
Hopefully not being seen as much of a mall watch. We were talking about like I think all of our parents have a his and hers set from Raymond Weil from the jeweler that they bought their engagement rings from or something. So it would be interesting to see them do something in 2024, but we'll see. To your point though, for the award itself, it would be nice to see something that is just so unique. This is not as unique, but it's still a beautiful watch.
Yeah, I really, I think that Raymond Weil's release of this collection, because it comes in quite a few colors. It comes in copper, rose salmon, quite a few colors. And I'd really recommend this watch. What is it? 39 millimeters. So it's extremely, wearable. Yep. 39.5. It's very wearable. I mean, I obviously love it in 38, clearly, or 37.5. That's just me. I'm just a little girl.
Because you have a tiny wrist.
That's because I have a tiny wrist. But I recommend it. I mean, I think this is a really interesting watch. I think it's cool. I mean, it's obviously Longines did it first, right? So it's not like Raymond Weil invented the wheel here. But I'm glad to see the brand doing better. I'm glad to see that. I mean, I don't think this watch should have won the Challenge Award, right? Best watch under $3,500. I think this watch could have won Best Comeback Story, right? Best like the Rudy Award.
Yeah, the Rudy Award.
So
like that.
The Jim Craig Award, the Micah Runzione Award. I mean, that's what I think this would have deserved. That being said, awesome piece, great collection. I would recommend this to anyone really looking for a dress watch. Be it obviously for a college graduation, it's a little expensive for that, or it's not for you. I don't know. I've been a proponent from day one that every gentleman needs a dress watch. One watch. Just that's it, guys. I'm not saying you need to collect dress watches like I do. I'm not saying that, but I think that it's just good and proper, and I think it's just nice to be able to have one dress watch. Just the same way that even though I'm not a sports watch guy, I ought to have one sports watch. Just one that resonates. Yeah. One that represents value. One that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Simple.
So I think that they did a really great job with this, but no, not as exciting as Ciga, not as exciting as Mad. I'm looking forward to what comes in 2024. If Trelobe releases a $3,500 Trelobe, which they will not, that would be really interesting, right? It's a brilliant brand that I've been really, really hot on lately. Who knows, right? Maybe the next Swatch Breguet will win it.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be sick. What I was going to just kind of final thoughts here. What I was thinking of too is what's interesting looking back at the past 4 years. There's two that are more your standard, what a watch is, and then two that are just completely different and unique in designs. So I'm just curious, like, is next year going to be something that's a little bit more unique, or is it going to be something that's a little bit more standard?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what's being released. Yeah. But it is interesting, and I think that what they do a good job of is it's not like it's like, oh, it's just the same standard watches that are winning or the same unique. Like they are, what looks like to me, at least over the past 4 years, putting a little bit of thought into, okay, like what is it this year? If they had a type of what they were going to pick for the Challenge Award for the past 4 years, they would have just stuck with something that's, like the Ciga or like the Mad One instead of just doing like a Tudor or a Raymond Weil. So I don't know, but just kind of interesting.
Keep it coming.
Keep you on your feet a little bit.
And maybe if it's 2-1, that's interesting too, right? 2 years where it's kind of wild, and then 1 year where they get more restrained and they give credit to someone that's just doing a good job as opposed to like reinventing the wheel. I can appreciate that. Spread the love a little bit. Spread the acclaim.
Okay,
that's pretty fine. But it's just amazing amazing to see, you know, what this award and what the GPHG can do for a brand. Ciga existed for many years before they got the GPHG award, but that was a turning point for the brand, right? MB&F, I don't think it was a turning point for them, right? I mean, meaning MAD and, you know, their affiliation with Max Busser. It wasn't a turning point. It was definitely a feather in their cap, but it is amazing to see what the power of a governing body of a governing body or of a you know professional authorities, right? What they can do for a brand when they give their approval, right? Because the thing can exist for 10 years and no one really bats an eye.
Yeah.
And then when the smart guys say it's good, then everyone's like, oh, wow, that's good, right?
Yeah.
It's really, really good, you know?
And the interesting thing to that point about the Ciga, too, is that was the first Chinese watch company to win a GPHG.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Again, they don't want to really give awards out to anyone. I mean, they will, but they're...
But I think it's good that they do.
It's
I mean, if
amazing.
you deserve it, you should win it.
Exactly, and I think it's very impressive. It's very impressive. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you love the Ciga design like we do, take a look at the link down in our description and explore the collection. It's incredible. Like this video if you liked it and subscribe to our channel.
Gentleman's wager for next year, unique or classic?
I say unique.
I'll go classic just to keep it interesting.
$1?
$1, gentleman's wager.
The usual?
The usual.
Straps, as many of you should know, bring a whole world of potential to mix up your watch collection. They breathe new life into watches. They help you pull out different colors. They give them new personality. Straps can be very addictive. I know people with 2 watches and 10 straps because it adds so many facets to a collection in a fairly easy and fun way. So that's why they become such a part of the Theo and Harris culture and identity. I think we sell more exotic straps than almost anybody because I just love them so much and I love sharing them with you.